we froze.
This is Ashton Solar, the Enchantress.
We
are the creators of the Enchanted Life and the Etheric Touch healing system.
Yes.
Today we want to come on and talk to you all about your purpose and your destiny, and we may get into a little shadow work in the process, okay? So the last couple months have been amazingly enchanted and magical, and the main component of what I have taken away from the last couple of months is about living in my purpose and living in my destiny. And so, you know, it has been on me for quite some time to come on live and talk about it, because ultimately, in our opinion, your purpose and your destiny is the most important thing that you have to accomplish here on planet Earth. This is why you are here. This is why you have incarnated in this lifetime. And so I have been thinking about, you know, we've had this group open for a couple months now, and I have really been thinking about what would be the best way to facilitate the group. And what I came up with was, like, we are going to attempt to be your guides into the life of magic and the life of the enchanted.
Wow.
But there is some...
You got great guides.
I think so.
Yes.
I think so. But one of the things that we have to understand on that journey into the enchanted is fundamentals. Who are you? What are you here for? These are common questions that we all have at some point in time in our life.
And what that is, that's really grounded. Like when you have those understandings, those basic understandings of your purpose for being here, like that grounds us in this reality right here.
It helps us to be able to get over our obstacles and our challenges. It helps us to take accountability in our life. It helps us to focus. Yes. There's so many wonderful attributes and so many things that are beneficial for understanding and walking in your purpose. And so we wanted to begin just from that perspective. Some of the things that, you know, you may hear us talking about is the Etheric Touch. With the Etheric Touch, we actually have outlined the journey specifically with practical day-to-day techniques that can be implemented in your life.
Tried and tested.
Yes, in order for you to awaken to your purpose and walk in that energy and walk in that destiny. So, the first thing I wanted to begin with is you as a spiritual being. A lot of times, one of the things that we first encounter when we are interacting with people is the fact that most of us are not aware that we are a spiritual being having a human experience.
Spirit first, and that's a grand understanding to have, you know, knowing ourselves as spirits first, because when we know ourselves as spirit beings first, that allows us to be able to look around and see all that we are truly connected to.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It gives us that expanded perception of who it is that we truly are, to identify yourself as a spirit that's in this being, to have an experience. And to be able to look around and see all of the other experiences that spirit is having within other forms, whether it's animals, whether it's true, like spirit is all things, it's everywhere. And to be able to identify ourselves from that place is an empowering, liberating, enlightening thing.
Yes, absolutely. And so to begin the journey, I wanted us to go back and understand ourselves as spiritual beings, right? So the first thing we should all understand is that when we were spirits, when we were still in our spiritual form, without the vessel, the body, when we were spirits, we had an agreement with the divine, right? We contracted with the divine. Heaven, we tend to forget through the birth canal, through the birthing process. In indigenous times, in indigenous cultures, what would happen is while a woman was still conceiving a child in her pregnancy stages, they would come together in ceremony and divine and go into ritual to speak with the spirit in order to understand what the spirit's purpose and destiny was here. This is what the original baby shower was. And so the reason the baby shower even took place was because the community, the village, understood that as a village, we were responsible for making sure that this child, this new being, remembered what their purpose was, and because we understood that it was going to benefit us as in a totality. And so that's one of the missing links to our culture that has been taken from us in through
even the names given
through slavery. Correct.
I mean, to the child, that would always remind them of their purpose and their reason for being here.
Yes, the name that they were given would always remind the child of their purpose and their destiny. And then the things that was given at the birth, the baby shower, were gifts for the child to be in alignment with their destiny. So if we understood that the child was going to be a diviner, then they may give him cards or bones or pendulums. If we knew the child was going to be a healer, then they may have herbs or a medicine bag. And so the actual gifts that were given at the baby shower was to keep the child on their purpose, and then the whole community actually worked together in order to ensure that everybody was in alignment with what their purpose was.
Wow, that's good.
So ultimately, one of the things that we now understand is that we have an agreement to come here. We have an agreement to fulfill a destiny and a purpose here.
And that's like profound to know, because like we're not on this earth for no reason. I know it seemed like, you know, like the way that society is going, like the way the average person lives, like it's like there's really no real reason for us to be here other than to get money, or you know what I mean, just the basic things that we see being promoted, and a lot of us come and go having that mind state, that belief of that's why I'm here, is to make sure this house is paid for, just whatever, like the way that we get the bills. I paid all my bills, like in life, like, and a lot of people consider that the reason that they are here, but we have a destiny much greater than that, much more divine than that. Like it's a reason that we are here that don't have anything to do with any of those things.
Correct. None of those things. And so a lot of times when we are first considering our journey, considering where we are in our lives, these are some of the questions that come up. Like, why am I here? What is my purpose? Why was I born?
That's the beginning of the journey. Like, that's really the beginning of the adventure that we are all here to go on.
Absolutely.
That question, why am I here? You know
this is the question that should spark in your spirit to make you understand that something is changing, something is transforming, something is waking up. Yes, a lot of times we hear that, you know, I feel like I hit a brick wall. I don't really know what to do from here. I've accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish, and I'm still not fulfilled. This all has to do with the fact that we're not in alignment with our destiny. We don't even know what it is.
And it has to do, in a lot of cases, where most people don't identify themselves as spiritual beings, because that's what we are seeking in this life, is spiritual fulfillment.
Absolutely.
Yes, like that's what gives us like the joy that we truly need to have inside of ourselves that no one can take. Like all of those things that spirit provides for us, that when we awaken these things in our spirit, like no one can take it from us. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, like so.
Absolutely. And so it is essential to start getting in alignment with that purpose. It's essential for us to understand that there is a purpose, that there is a destiny here. And then the beautiful part is how the universe, and I said this earlier, how the universe has been conspiring for you to get to this moment the whole time. So in ancient times, when we would be taught what our purpose is, the universe sets us up to put us in certain situations in order to spark that remembering within us again, and that's why the questions are starting to form.
And it's still like that right now. Like anytime when we begin this journey, the universe is always going to conspire to help you along your way on this journey. Like the statement, like when the student ready, the teacher will appear. Like those kind of statements. Like this is what the universe does anyway. The universe conspires so something can reach the fullness of its potential, whether it's a human, whether it's a tree, whether it's a flower that's growing. The universe is going to conspire that thing fully manifests itself. And it's the same thing with us. Like it's the same way with us. When we truly are on that journey of awakening, the universe is going to do everything that's needed for us to have that realization of ourselves that we are here to have. That's just how it works.
Yes. Yes. And so if this is where you find yourself at, you are exactly where you should be.
Yeah.
This is a very exciting time for you, because it is allowing you, it is sparking within you a place of discovery and exploration that many adults do not find in adulthood. It's allowing you the space, it's prompting you to take this as an opportunity to really start to discover yourself as a spiritual being.
And to heal, like to really heal.
Which is healing.
Which is healing, because that's like spiritual awareness and spiritual fulfillment, spiritual development is at the foundation of all healing that needs to take place on this planet. It's a spiritual thing. So this is like the real beginning of the healing that's needed in our life, like the healing that's gonna have ripple effects moving forward and behind us. Like the real healing that needs to take place is spiritual healing.
Yes. But even with this place, so sometimes when these sparks happen, sometimes we're like, okay, but what do I need to do? And we really don't know where to go or who to talk to, what information, you know, to gain from it. And then others of us will just put it in the back of our mind. You know, okay, I'm just going to put, you know, that's just a passing thought. It's nothing for me to investigate further. And so that's where the big decision-making time comes in. That's where choice comes in. We can choose to be a loving individual, seeing our experiences as a positive consequence of our actions, or we can choose to see the things that happen in our lives as detriments to us, and you know,
learning lessons though.
Detriments and blame and victimhood, you know.
Be learning lessons though.
If we decide to choose and the consequence ends up being positive, or what we may consider to be negative, instead of it having this negative connotation to it, we begin to understand that it's just a lesson, it's a learning lesson. And one of the things that I wanted to bring to you all's attention is that when we are dealing with developing our spiritual self, when we are participating in our soul care, one of the things that we need to understand and be aware of is, and I just lost it.
You lost it?
Just like that. I was on a roll. Give me a minute, y'all. It'll come back. What was I saying?
Man. You were saying like when you're participating in your soul, you know, well-being and things like that? Something like that?
What you come to discover is that, and I already said, these are learning lessons. What you understand is the spirit, right, it came right back. The spiritual lifestyle is not a logical, linear lifestyle. The spiritual lifestyle is a symbolic, spiral lifestyle. And what that means is that we are understanding that it may not come in the ways that we're used to, like in a direct message, like conjure, I need such and such and such and such. No, it'll be more like conjure, here's a butterfly, you are transforming it. You know what I'm saying?
It's
or
like it's just being able to interpret the language of nature,
the language of spirit,
which historically has been known as the language of the gods. Like this is how the gods communicate, like because we understand that we find these different energies and these forces, these deities within nature, and nature communicates with us on a daily basis. So it's really about whether or not we're able to interpret these messages or not, these conversations that the universe be having with us.
And so it's really an interesting thing, because that also can eliminate the idea of coincidences. Of coincidences. Nothing is a coincidence. Everything happens as it should in its divine timing and purpose. And so one of the things that really sparked to me recently was I have been getting a lot of people to tell me that they were just drawn to me for some reason. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit. I wanted to talk to you about that.
I can relate to those people.
I wanted to talk about that drawing, that attraction. One of the things that we must understand, especially when we're starting our journey, is that there are aspects of yourself that I hold within me. There are aspects of me that he holds within him, right? And when we connect, when we see each other, when we connect, if you're drawn to somebody in whatever kind of way, it is because a part of that person resides within you. So when we say you are a reflection, like you are my reflection, that's what we're saying is I acknowledge the part of you that I see within myself, and vice versa. And so that attraction is one of the symbologies, one of the languages of spirit that is prompting you to discover and explore yourself even more, to understand the divineness of who you are and your purpose in this lifetime.
That's the greatest thing, is that coming back into that awareness of ourselves as divine beings. And this is what happens when we understand ourselves to be spiritual beings, having a human experience like that automatically brings us back up into divinity. And this automatically, like I said earlier, allows us to see ourselves with a more fullness of who it is that we truly are. And so we can walk in the harmony that we should be walking on earth in, the love that we should be walking on earth in, when we can look around and we can identify the spirit in everything is the same spirit that's in me. So all we are seeing is different reflections of ourselves.
Correct.
And then we operate from that place, and we treat each other according to that awareness. Like when I see you, I see me. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to harm you. I don't want to cause a downfall in your life. I don't want to be in competition with you. Like, we are one, and moving in that. And this is what gives birth to the love that's missing here on earth.
And then even on the opposite ends of that, when you meet somebody that may trigger you, you know what I'm saying? Oh, I don't know why I don't like her. I don't know why does she make me feel da-da-da-da-da. That's an indication for you to reflect on yourself and see what it is about her is causing that within yourself. And so, or him. So this is how the healing journey kind of works. Like, we stop giving responsibility to other people for what's happening, blame to other people for what's happening in our lives, and we start taking accountability and responsibility for the things that are happening in our lives. Once we understand that we have a divine contract, once we understand that we have a divine purpose, then we start aligning with that purpose in order to reach our destiny, and it's the most fulfilling that you have in this lifetime.
And then it also allows us to accept accountability, because we understand that we are only here to have experience. Like, that's all that spirit is doing. Spirit is having many different experiences as many different things. So the things that we go through, the things that we experience in this form, are lessons that we're supposed to be learning as we experience those things, because that's all spirit is having, is experiences to learn from them. And this is, I am an experience that spirit is having to learn through the things that I go through in my life. And so, like, it puts us in a place of being accountable and understanding the journey of what life is actually doing. Like, these experiences and these things that we are going through are maturing us. Like, they're making us wiser. Like, they're making us understand ourselves more. It's causing us to bring those things out that's deep inside of us, that's buried deep within inside of us. But we go through certain things for these things to come out, so we can understand ourselves even more. And so it's just a journey that we are on. We all
on, and it also helps. It helps us to, when we recognize that we have our own purpose, that we have our own destiny, it helps us to keep our eyes on our own paper. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not so quick to mind other people's business when we're so focused on our own healing and development and our own growth. If you're not growing, then you're dying. If you're not transforming, then you're dying. You know, that's the cycle of life, is to continue to grow and transform. And so, you know, when we're talking about our purpose and our destiny, once we understand that we have a contract that we have agreed to prior to even manifesting here, that puts us in that puts us in the perspective of, there's a reason for me being here, and I need to explore that reason. I need to discover that reason. And I'm thinking that if you're in this group, that you either had these questions, or at some point of time, and you're on that journey, or you are looking to begin because something is prompting you to. And that's the grace of the universe. You know what I'm saying? That's the grace of the spirit. That's the grace of the ancestors. Like, it's time for you to discover who you truly are and stand up in that energy. A lot of times when people first encounter this journey, they are scared of the unknown. They are scared to confront the monsters within themselves. And that is what we call our shadows. The monsters within ourselves is what we call our shadows. And so one of the questions in the group was, what is shadow work, and does it ever end? Shadow work is the monsters inside of us. It's those things that trigger us. It's those things that we tend to, how we tend to rub people the wrong way, or what may aggravate somebody else about us, or what aggravates us about ourselves. For me, it looked like anger, you know what I'm saying? Rage, explosions, you know what I'm saying? And it could be the littlest thing that sets me off in 60 seconds. Like, everything doesn't prompt a big explosion, you know what I'm saying? Everything does not prompt that. And so when we talk about shadow work, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about those triggers. And so, you know, we on social media, we see a lot of things like trigger warning. That is to prompt you to go ahead within yourself and be ready to deal with whatever is coming or getting ready to confront you. Now, shadow work is, in my opinion, is something that you will continuously deal with, because you will continuously heal. If you are dealing with people who have said, I've already healed from that, I've already healed from this, it's probably not true. They may have to heal from some aspects of it, but I guarantee the way life works, it will present itself in a different way to really see how far you've healed. And
I would just, you know, like add on to, like, shadow work is embracing those things about ourselves that we might don't like.
Correct.
Like being able to embrace those things, because we're not just one way. We're not just all lights. We're not just all one extreme. Like, we are that other extreme too. We're not just the light. We're the darkness at the same time.
Correct.
So it's about being comfortable with that, like embracing that aspect about yourself and not allowing it to be something that causes you to fall, but something that brings more healing into your life, something that allows you to become stronger or elevate yourself and your understanding of yourself more. It's like embracing that aspect of yourself that's there.
Yes.
Like confronting that aspect of yourself that most people try to hide or run away from or hide from others.
Yes.
But going to that place and having that meeting with that place and understanding that side of who it is that you are, and eventually coming to a peace. Come into that place of peace between the darkness and the light. So the true self can be revealed.
One of the things most of us are unaware of is that we even have these shadows or these darknesses until they appear in our lives, until they are conjured up in our lives by most of the time seeming like accident or circumstances. You know what I'm saying? Once we are able to be aware of those shadows, of that darkness within ourselves, what we consider to be weaknesses can actually become strengths. Can actually become strength. So shadow work is something that you will always be dealing with for the rest of your life. You will always be confronting different shadows. The goal is to integrate. The thing about shadow work is that a lot of times we think we are supposed to eliminate those things about ourselves, and it's not necessarily an elimination. It's an integration. There are times where it's warranted for you to have an attitude. There are times that it's warranted for you to be angry or sad or hide yourself away for a bit. Like, sometimes it's healing to have that solitude.
But the goal is to not allow these things to consume you
and control you.
Because it's a time and a place for everything. It's a time and a place for everything. Like, if somebody kick in your door,
it's time.
It's time.
War.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's time for that beast to come out. You know what I mean? Hopefully nothing like that will ever happen, but like, these things play their parts. So it's about the peace, like the peace, the coming into the harmony of these two aspects of who it is that we are. Like, and finding that peace between the two. Like, that's what the goal is.
That's what the goal
is. It's peace between the two, because both extremes exist. Both extremes exist. It's no different from yin, yang, heaven, earth. Like, it's no different. Like, the man, woman, the two go together. The two go together, and the two must find peace. The two must find harmony. Like, we can't run from our shadow self. We have to confront that. We have to have a meeting with it. Like, we have to come to love it and embrace it and accept it as a part of who it is that we are. Not dominate us or you know, go to an extreme in us, but find that perfect place that will always give birth to something else. But we have to find that perfect place, that middle spot to where the two can really join and make love and become one, and then something else is manifested from that.
Another
go ahead.
Another aspect of shadow work that was mentioned in the comments, they wanted us to touch on the enjoyment of shadow work. So, for instance, a lot of, especially for women, our sexuality is to be suppressed for the majority of our lives. We are shamed for it. We are shamed for our bodies. We are shamed for all kinds of things when it comes to our sexuality. And this is just one aspect of shadow work. Was the first thing that I thought about when the question was asked. And so it takes time to, one, embrace your body as a woman as it is, whether you know, thin, thick, whatever your body shape is or whatever. It takes time to fully embrace that shadow work. It takes time to embrace the sensual goddess that you are, that shadow work. It takes time to unleash your wild woman, that's shadow work. It takes time to fully embrace who you are as a sexual being, what that means to you. If you have an oral fixation, if you have a BDSM thing, or you know, all these different aspects of
to say this is who
I am, this is how I express myself.
You're gonna love me or you're not. Like, this is who I am.
That's part of shadow work. It's part of shadow work. So yes, like on the one side, it is our triggers. But see, that's the thing. The things that trigger us the most are the things that are here to give us the biggest lesson.
And then also, like, just using the sexual energy, like the enjoyment of what we might consider is like what we want to hide from other people. The fact that, you know, like, we really feel this kind of way about sex. Like, you want to hide it, but you know it brings you joy. Like, to be in that space, to be able to go in that space and experience that, not get lost in it. You know what I mean? Not going to an extreme in it, but to have an experience with it. Like, those things that we want to hide from others, like, in most cases, are things that we enjoy doing. Like, if you look at it, those things that we try to contain are really things that we enjoy doing. But it's not about getting rid of these things. It's about, once again, integrating. Allowing the two to become one. Like, one side or the other never rules. It's always about that middle place. It's always about that harmonious center between the two extremes. And so we have to go into our shadows, and we have to begin to love those aspects of who it is that we are, because it's a part of who it is that we are, and it's not going anywhere. It's a part of who it is. It's 50% of ourselves. Like, we cannot run from that, because to run from that will only bring destruction in our life. But to embrace it is where the healing is going to come from.
Yes. And so working with your shadows is part of your purpose. Working with your shadows is part of your destiny.
Your destiny.
Because it's actually, your shadow work is there to empower you.
It's there to empower you. It's there to show you the aspects that you felt were weaknesses, and how you can use those weaknesses as strength in your life. That's the transformation. That's the magic. That's the enchanted. That's part of the work. And so it's not anything that you ever stop doing. And yes, sometimes it can be tough. Sometimes, but those things that are worth it can have to put you through the fire for it to get there. But then these things become more and more easier
as
we move forward. The more and more we make peace with ourselves. Like, this is what this is about. Excuse me, y'all. It's about making peace with ourselves. So the more that we embrace what we call shadow, those things that we want to hide, the more that we come to a place of peace with that, the more that's going to be reflected on the outside of ourselves always. Like, we know that this is how life works. So it's not about suppressing anything, like no aspect of who it is that we are. It's for us to experience those aspects of who it is that we are, gain that experience, because it's a wisdom in that for you.
Yes. And so, like I said, we want to begin our conversations here in the Enchanted Life, transform your life from the space of who you are and how to take care of you. You cannot operate from an empty cup, and you cannot continue to suppress yourself, hide away, neglect yourself, none of these things. It is time for you to understand who you are as a divine being, with a purpose here, with a destiny here, and not be afraid to confront your own shadows and learn how to integrate them.
One thing I would suggest is like having someone to help guide you. Like if you don't really understand it, like this is the necessities of guides, like people that can assist you along your journey, so we don't hurt ourselves, that we don't harm ourselves, but we have guidance on this journey.
One of the things that should be understood is that the concept of what we are talking about is not something that is taught in society. We have been taught as a completely different programming, and so in order to understand a new paradigm, a new dynamic, this transformation, you do need a guide or a mentor to walk with you until you are able to walk on your own. You know, until you're able to walk on your own, and then we can decide if we want to walk together. And so that's what the Etheric Touch brings. That's what the Etheric Touch brings. It helps you to learn how to connect with your soul, how to connect with your spirit. It teaches you how to connect with your ancestors, how to connect with the divine, how to connect with your higher self, and how to see, and how to be in alignment with your purpose and your destiny here on earth. That's what the Etheric Touch teaches. Of course, you know, everybody, you know, you may be attracted to a different guide. I really don't care what guide you're attracted to. I care that you're in alignment with your purpose. It's the most important thing that you have here. It's the most important thing you have to accomplish in this lifetime. So that's what I care about. I care that you experience magic in your lives. I care that you know that you're a divine being and that you can manifest anything that you put your mind to. You have the ability to create your reality. That's what I care most about. So, you know, as we continue to do these lives, it is our goal to continue to walk you through this mystical, magical wonderland that is nature, that is Mother Nature, that is Earth. We tend to live our lives based off the ways of the ancient, and we invite you to walk with us in that journey. So that's all we have for today, or whatever. Until the next time. Peace.